Hello everyone, we're going to get started in about 1 minute, so if you could please take your Hi again, friends. Welcome back. You were here for the 9 o'clock seminar, and welcome if you're showing up for the first time at 10 o'clock. My name is Kate Moncrief. I am one of the 2 play seminar directors and one of the dramaturgs this season. I was the dramaturg on this show. In my day job, in my other life, I'm a college professor. I'm the head of humanities and arts at Worcester Polytechnic outside of Boston. I am joined by some wonderful people this morning, my fellow dramaturg and play seminar director. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to introduce our guests of honor.
I'm Isabel Smith-Bernstein. I'm the other play seminar director and dramaturg. Just in case you don't know, a dramaturg is responsible for historical and contemporary context, researching them and kind of blending them together. It's a kind of a complicated role that changes depending on which play you're working on.
And we have our director and our assistant director. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brad Carroll, the director of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yeah, this is my 14th season, and I think my 16th show. Because there were 2 seasons where I did summer and fall. So I go back to 2002. My first show here was Manuel Mancha with the great Bob Peterson. For those of you from Utah who like who Bob is. And I've primarily been the musical guy here for a
Well, last season you directed.
Last season I directed The Liar, which folded itself into the season. And other straight plays have been, I did the Mousetrap years ago, and then did the Gold Rush version of Comedy of Errors in the Adams Theater a few years back. So they've mixed it up for me, which is great, because I like the variety.
And your partner here.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Sarah Stoll. I was the assistant director on most of the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. This is my 2nd season. Last year I worked on The Florida and Richmond Venice, and this year I'm also working on The Globe.
Just a couple questions for our director, and then we're going to turn the mics over to you. So, Brad, could you talk a little bit about your history with Joseph and your vision for this particular production?
Sure. My history with Joseph goes back to 1981, when I saw it as an off-Broadway production in New York City before it ever became what it has become. It was one of the original productions in the States. Here's the funny thing about it. I saw it and I just didn't like it at all. My people were going, well, I went to see it because I had a friend from college who was in it, playing one of the brothers. So I went to see Phil, and I came away going, what is this? I just didn't understand at that point in time because it was brand new to us. It just seemed sort of silly to me. So flash forward 9 years, I'm working for a theater company in California, and it's on the season. It's going to put on our season. So I went to my meeting to get my assignments for the year, and I said to them, I said, I will do anything you want me to do this year, as long as I don't have to work on Joseph. I thought that strongly about it. That has so changed. And I went back a week later to get my assignments, and they said, we need you to direct and choreograph Joseph. And being a team player, I said, okay. So I was put together with some designers, and in the course of developing that production, I felt irrevocably in love with the show. And it completely changed, and that production which we did for the holiday show of 1990, was revived in the summer of 92, 93, and 94, and paid for the entire season every season because it was so popular. I mean, this show hits a nerve with people. And so now it's really interesting to be doing it 25 years later, because I'm now middle-aged and I was not then. And it just sort of changed the perspective of it. But the thing about Joseph that I find so intriguing is, I learned as a director this lesson in working on Joseph back in 1990. The music, it's hard to separate. Yes, it's a Bible story, but there's a country western number in it. There's a calypso number in it. There's a French cafe number. I mean, what Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice did with this production really dictates a lot of what you have to do. It's a calypso number. You can't pretend it's not, right? And so you just sort of have to fall into the fun of it. But going back to the original intent, it was written for children. It was written originally for 9-year-old boys at a boys' school in London. And it was
20 minutes.
And it was 20 minutes long. And it was a cantata. It was never intended to be staged. It was like the Messiah, only 20 minutes long, with a calypso number. And then they were asked to do it again, so they developed it more. And I also want to point out that Andrew Lloyd Webber was 19 years old when he wrote this. So this was Andrew Lloyd Webber before he became Andrew Lord Webber. And Tim Rice was 23. It was their first collaboration. And I think the thing that I am most drawn to about this piece is the innocence of it, especially today. Look around at our world, nothing wrong with a little bit of good, true innocence, right? And I think it's because they were young, they were writing it for little kids, to be performed for little kids and their families. So, and for me, the entire approach has grown out of the need to maintain it. Because Joseph, even at its darkest, is still not even PG-13, right? To me, anyway. And I think there's just something so joyful about that. And then if you fully indulge the musical styles, which I think they did originally because it was for kids, it was not going to be staged, so by having these different styles happening all the way through, it kept it lively. It wasn't one style. And just sort of dramaturgically, Handel, when he wrote The Messiah, was writing in the musical vernacular of his time. And Lloyd Webber, when he wrote Joseph, was writing in the music vernacular of, it was Britpop in 1968. Anything was gay. And I think he really grabbed a hold of that idea and capitalized on it rather than trying to write some new version of a Messiah or a Jeremiah or some of those old oratorios. So that's really the joy I find in it. And just watching people respond to all the different styles is a real hoot. And then there are moments of absolute familial connection and beauty. And when that moment when Jacob comes back to Egypt still tears me up. And I've been doing this thing for 30 years. There's just something about the way the music combines with what's going on dramatically that it's so simple, and yet it's so deep at the same time. And I think to be able to do that is a really magical gift.
It's really beautiful. Thank you. One more little historical fact that you might enjoy. Russ Benton, who plays the Pharaoh, played that role 20 years ago when the festival did the production. Renee Thornton, who's not in this, you'll see him in both Will. I think this was proven 20 years ago. So we have a history with this play as well. It's directed by some unknown director. Let me see if I can come up with it. Fred Adams?
Yeah. He'll never last.
Let's open this up to your questions, and Darcy is going to run the microphone. So you just need to raise your hand, and she will find you.
Thank you. I just wanted to start out by saying, when I first was coming to this, I had seen it several other times, and so I just wasn't that excited, except that we were friends with one of the main actors, and so we were anxious to see her. And so when we started, just from the very beginning, to tell you that it's now my favorite one I've ever seen. And it is amazing what comes out of that. But as I was sitting there, I thought, the depth of this play, anyone who's read the story, which is probably everybody, but when you read that, it's really a very moving story, and yet you didn't feel like it was like-minded to do the way it was written because it was so much fun. And yet at the end, when the father comes up on stage, I was emotional. I was so emotional. I saw her red. Anyone who's ever had children or anything, you identify with how wonderful that scene is. And even leaving out the part where they make him bring Benjamin, and there's in the real story, you don't miss that because you still get that joy out of the end of it, and you've been laughing and singing along and everything through the whole thing. I have to say one other thing. I was so disappointed when Joseph showed up and had blonde hair. I don't know why. This is not going to work, at least in my art. But the minute he opened his voice and started singing, I thought, wow, he's got a fabulous voice, so it was okay. But that is changes.
I don't think there were many blondes in the Middle East.
Anyway, so thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed the whole show tremendously, but when I saw the French Cafe scene, if I hadn't seen one other thing, it would have been worth the whole play. That was just
Oh my gosh, thank you.
fantastic.
I will pass that on to Alex, he'll appreciate it.
And then you go through that, and then the table starts spinning around. I mean, it was way over the top and just so enjoyable. And then I wanted to comment too that with so much good entertainment, but I'm telling you, when Joseph is reunited with his father, I just teared up. That was a truly moving moment, and to combine both of those things that you did so well, you did a great job.
Thank you so much.
I would echo everything she said, particularly like, the whole thing is so kind of over the top of lighthearted. And I've often seen the reuniting be this kind of, he gives each of his brothers a slap on the back and little high fives and stuff. And it's, oh, it's all fun. I've never felt that emotion at the reuniting. I've seen it several times. Well done. One comment, idea, take it ahead as you will. I think in this a couple of people that were with me were saying, man, there was a couple of songs where I was really entertained, but I couldn't understand the lyrics. I couldn't hear what they were saying. And honestly, I think that's a problem if it is seen as a problem in the show itself, where the show is built, they have all these in-jokes and pop culture references and little side gags and things that people come expecting that almost to the point where in certain numbers, like I'm thinking of the Elvis number in particular, where all the stuff on stage has really almost nothing to do with what they're singing about. And of course, he's doing a great Elvis impression. One thought I had was I thought it was really smart to do this kind of callback. Another thing I've never seen done, where you have all the numbers done in review at the end and kind of this fun disco beats. I was clapping along to the whole thing. And you had the lyrics. I thought, man, maybe they should just do that for the whole show. Really. I mean, especially for those of us who are harder of hearing, or who haven't seen the show before. If there's anybody who doesn't know the story of Joseph by now, perhaps. I don't know. So maybe that's the way you can have your cake and eat it too. Sure, that's not right.
So I'm curious, how many people have seen Joseph before? How many people are seeing this for the first time? Welcome, movies. Excellent. Next question.
Yes, with regard to that singing, I got the feeling that when the words came up, the audience was supposed to sing along, but I wasn't hearing anybody singing along. I started singing. But it seemed like it wasn't really catching on. I was just wondering.
Well, I don't know that they call that thing at the end of the play, they call it the mega mix. And originally, it was tacked on to the end of the play to make the play longer. Right? I mean, just to pad it out so the audience would feel like they'd gotten their money's worth and not be done in an hour and 5 minutes. And the very first time I did the show, I cut it because I thought it was silly. But here we decided to do it, and I thought, well, let's make it a community sing-along, you know. And I think if people aren't used to going to the theater to sing along, so and you know who usually just starts singing right away are the kids. Yeah, I was watching this little girl singing I don't know the colors in her.
There was a kid next to me really singing.
Yeah, she's like, red, yellow, blue, green, aqua. I mean, she was just right there singing, and her mom kept kind of looking at her like, oh, maybe I should join it, you know what I mean? Because I think the kids really know this piece, because so many of them have done it, and everywhere from elementary school through, you know, through whatever. So we tried to turn it into a big hoopla, sing-along, and we'll see if it works or not. Right? Right? Well, that was the original idea, and then our sound designer came up with the idea of having the lyrics animated, which just seems hipper to me. Right? Yeah, I think it's really fun. It's a really nice touch.
And then back here in the blue hat.
So I don't know if this was intentional, offering Joseph and then followed by Macbeth. But I'm wondering if it might have been better to switch that, offer Joseph as an antidote for Macbeth.
Yes, right. Like I said, walking in, I went from the sublime to the ridiculous. And I am the guy who represents the ridiculous.
You'll notice as it gets warmer here that our matinees are indoors and the outdoor shows are in the evening. So it has a little to do with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to be in the same theater as Hamlet, which I think people won't see. Just talk about two ends of the spectrum. Joseph and just what the set designer has done with the two sets. I mean, you feel like you're in a different theater between seeing Joseph and when you see Hamlet. It's one of the things I love about coming here is that kind of variety. Overnight, people are in there changing over from the minute we finished the show yesterday. They started tearing the set down to put in Hamlet, and then they're going to do the same thing in reverse. You know, it's really quite a machine here.
Well, and you said from the sublime to the ridiculous, but I know many of you will see several shows while you're here, and you can find thematic connections. You probably saw in the press releases that one of the big themes for the season is family, and you can identify that in all of the shows. Who has the white?
And then the white blouse right over here.
I just wanted to say, I've never seen the show before, and I wasn't expecting what I saw. I thought it would be much more staid and biblical, you know, type thing.
That's what we say when we talk about grass.
That's my memoirs.
I just thought it was fabulous, enjoyed it tremendously. The actors were wonderful, all the elements were there, from humor to great acting to great singing. The whole thing was just fabulous. I mean, you can go through all the different characters and scenes and compliment all of them. But one thing I did notice is that there were strains of Phantom of the Opera in Andrew Lloyd Webber's music. I heard a few just kind of similarities, and I was wondering, when did he write Phantom? He wrote this one evidently
In the late
before.
60s, Phantom wasn't until early 80s. Yeah, I think it opened in
1986.
86. Dramaturg. That's what the dramaturg does. Yeah, but what's another interesting thing is there are things absolutely that are verbatim from Jesus Christ Superstar. The cross throughs of the Ishmaelites, that's all music that he stole from Joseph and put into Superstar several years later. So, and I guess it's okay to steal from yourself.
Yeah.
I guess you could take yourself to court, but what would be the point? And he's also sort of notorious for that. You know, he's the guy who.
It's his style. He just kind of has that within him. He expresses it.
An amazing,
In each one of his ways.
an amazing writer of melodies. You cannot deny that.
Did anybody notice our little nods to other styles? Pick that up in the dance?
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
What?
Over here, the yellow shirt.
Yes, sir.
Yes, hi.
I too was singing it for the first time, and I had a question. I was wondering what kind of, since I've never seen it before, what kind of twists did you put on it for this show? For example, it felt like the nod to chorus line maybe was not in your show.
That is correct.
Was there anything else? And also, I was confused at the end. There seemed to be an implied relationship between the narrator and Joseph. Was that anything?
That's a really great question, because the way there have been productions where they have really contrived, not like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and we talked about that with our narrator and our Joseph, because it's not written in the text that she's the narrator, she's the person who is outside of the story, but they wanted to have some sort of connection. And I thought, well, the connection is you are telling his story to a new audience. So there has to be, I think, an agreement between the two of you that she's going to tell the story and he's going to lead the performance of it, basically. So, and there were places, frankly, where in the course of the staging of it, where they wanted to be together more. And I said, no, I don't see it. I find it confusing, especially because he's dressed quasi-biblically, and she's dressed like a rocker chick out of London right now. I think just the visual is confusing. And to me, it's important for the narrator to be, I told Sandy, I said, you are of this story, but you are not in this story. Does that make sense? Your responsibility is to tell it and to try to make it seem like I told her, it's like telling a fairy tale to a little kid. You don't go, okay, once upon a time there were 3 bears, and there was Mama Bear, and maybe you don't tell it like that. You tell it like it's the most important story. You've never told it before. You want this child to hear it for the first time. And frankly, audiences are kind of the same way. Finding a new way to deliver something that they may know. I mean, some people have seen Hamlet 50 times. How do you deliver it in a new way? So that's what drove that. And then I just thought for them to come together at the end as if we did it. We told the story, and they seem to have liked it. It's just a great little moment where past meets present. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Could you share a couple other little tidbits, like the chorus line moment that you think you brought to this production?
Well, the spinning table. I've never seen that done before, but the sheep hiding underneath the table.
And kudos to the actor who had to do that.
Yeah.
The person doing that.
What else? The camel. Yeah, Kevin, our costume designer, sitting back there. I said, so I want a camel. And he thought I was joking. That's actually written. I mean, for this voice to appear, I don't know if it's ever been done the way I did it. With the actual angel in heaven, with cowboy hats and stuff, because it's a Western number. So the whole thing wanted to feel kind of like a saloon entertainment to me. And the great thing about Joseph is it is so wide open to that in a way that Gypsy isn't. It's a different kind of show, and so however you want to interpret the Calypso it allows you to do that. And as I said before, you have to do what the music is telling you to do. I learned that especially from directing opera. There's a place where she's supposed to pick up the knife. There's a place where she's supposed to stab it. It's what Puccini wrote. And if you don't do it that way, you're doing it wrong. Because then the picture and the sound don't match. And a lot of people now, we're so inundated with sound. You can't go to the filling station without hearing music playing or television screens above the pumps. We're so inundated with sound now that we're sort of numb to it. So I find that especially young people don't listen to music the way you have to if you're doing a dramatic interpretation of that music. So I get the pleasure of pointing those things out to them. Oh, and then you see the light bulb going behind their eyes, and then they instantly they want to start paying more attention. to the actual accompaniment that they're singing to, because you can't have one without the other. You know, so it's
One of those moments I love is when they indicate that they might go see the Sphinx. The little hand movement that we get there, right? Those things that are in the language that I think you brought out especially well.
Thank you. It's just fun to get a piece that's this fun and lighthearted that you can do that with.
You just have to lean into it, right? Just surrender, lean in, enjoy.
How many times in rehearsal did I say, especially to the brothers, okay, we're gonna think this is really dumb. But here's what we're gonna do. Thousands of things, okay, you guys, because you're all 20-somethings, are gonna think this is so dumb. And as it turns out, they didn't. They actually loved it, because many of them had never gotten to do anything so dumb. So they were just reveling in it. It was great. I see a man with a microphone.
Well, you're going to answer my question. You talked about style and wide open. I think it was 2 summers ago, Robert Redford did it up at the Sundance Theater in Western style. It was a stage in a Western saloon. Some of you may have seen that. And the whole language took different, versions. One morning, David, one morning, David. It was pure Western singing all the way through.
Yeah.
Some sort of a double
whammy.
I guess that's possible. You said it's wide open for anything.
Yeah, but as I said earlier, I think if you don't lean into all of those styles, I mean, it would be, if you don't do Elvis with Elvis, then I can say you're not paying attention, right? And the great thing about that, it's so layered, because Elvis was the king of rock and roll, and Elvis was from Memphis. Pharaoh is the king of Egypt, who lives in Memphis, Egypt. That's where and that was a Tim Rice thing. Because, well, if we're gonna do the king, let's do the king. He's from Memphis, we've got Elvis in 1968, you know what I mean? One thing right to remember, and so that's like such a layered way that it would just be silly not to do. Well, and the other thing about Russ Benton coming back was I knew Russ had done it 20 years ago. And when we were talking about casting, I was at a phone meeting with Brian Hall, and he said, and we had originally thought we'd do young Elvis. And Brian said, well, what would you think about maybe doing old Elvis? And I paused for a second, I said, Brian, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, I think yes. And without even saying it, we both knew we were talking about bringing Russ back to do it. And he's great. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, he's just so much fun.
Okay, thank you. My question is, so the player who played Joseph was not the traditional Joseph that we've seen before, and I loved it. What was your choice of going with him? And it reminded me of a Pippin, original Pippin. Anyways, I loved him. But again,
what are you used to seeing as Joseph?
more of a dark hair.
Oh.
Donny
Osmond.
The imitation, Donny Osmond's imitation for her.
Well, we went on quite a search for Joseph. We went through a number of different choices, and of the 6 that we sort of came down to, no 2 were remotely alike. And there was something about, and for me, when I saw Aaron, and I went to Aaron's website and saw him singing and fell in love with his voice. And we actually talked about wigging him, putting a wig on him. And I tend to be kind of resistant to wigging men in a piece that is kind of contemporary the way this one is, and I didn't want everybody in long biblical hair, so that wouldn't just get in the way. Kevin and I talked about it, and I said, it's kind of going against the grain, but he's like I said, he's a beautiful man, and he's got a beautiful voice, and that's beautiful hair, right? That's his hair. We don't have to worry about it getting caught up in anything. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just sort of look at what the actual material is and say, let's just use that. So I hope it wasn't, disturbing. No, I think he's just great.
So gentlemen back here, and then also Technicolor on to you.
Okay.
Well, we were all talking about it, but I just thought it was great that we used them over Elvis, because you look at the Zions, I mean, there's so many over there, there was a big hoop when he had a hard time getting out and getting down, and I thought, how fun that is. And another thing I thought about, these original biblical writers who wrote the story in the first place, they'd have had a hoop watching this play.
I hope so, thank you.
I love the tongue-in-cheek line where the lyrics say it's all in Genesis 39, right
Yeah,
there.
and I love the lyric in the prison where the prisoners all say to Joseph, "We've read the book and you come out on top." I mean, already we're out of real time and place. I mean, it's those little commentaries along the way that keep it surprising, I think.
The black sweater.
I do think Joseph needs a suntan.
Maybe.
Aaron's from Alaska. Aaron's
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Didn't know.
And then up here, over here.
Yes, you know that Joseph is rather socially inept in the way, you know, he's showing off his shadow. He's there with his brothers, predicting these things out loud through his about his dreams. But this Joseph seems quiet in La La Land, a bit not so bright in the beginning. He has to be bright later on to get to where he is. But you played him as a bit more than socially inept. You played him a bit, okay, you can say something. Talk to me about how you played him.
Well, the thing about Joseph for me was I have seen him play extremely smug, so you don't like him. And I think you have to like him, because then when he gets to Egypt and pulls all those tricks on his brothers, by deceiving them in order to get the truth out of them. And Aaron, we talked about this a lot. He says, well, I don't think Joseph is dumb. I just think he's distracted. He lives in his own little world of dreams. He's always thinking about, he's like the kid in, well, La La Land, okay, if that's what you mean by that. Yeah, he's the kid in class who's always staring out the window when the teacher's giving the math lesson, right? And then, so that he's just saying, this is what I saw, as opposed to, this is what I saw, and someday I'm gonna be, you know, I just think it's important that he be affable. And so that's the direction we try to go with him. So if La La Land works, if that's what we want to call it, yeah, I just think he's the kid who's never quite with it. That's why I have him wander out of the pod of brothers right at the beginning. He's already thinking about something else while everybody's being introduced. So we look around and there he is. Let's get him down here to his mom, you know? So lots of kids like that, you know?
And then here's the blue, then we'll go to that, and that's the front of the line.
Wow.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for using my name, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, go, Joe, what's about you?
Because when I had all my hair like you did, I was blonde. How's that? I was right.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I'm of the lineage of Ephraim, who ties into Joseph.
Oh. Goes way back. Yeah. I know a little bit about that.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm just wondering about some behind the scenes stuff. So when you were deciding how you were going to stage this musical, okay, so, you know, you made phone calls, you talked about casting, but I wonder if you, without trying to ruin your career here, did you like nudge him certain ways? Was there input behind the scenes about things you might have wanted to change? You know, just how much input and collaboration
Rebecca does.
Maybe talk a little about what assistant directors do.
Well, I would start by saying a lot of those conversations happen before the ADs show up. It's like the casting is already done by the time, excuse me, that they pick the assistant directors, and a lot of the design conversations have already happened. So I wasn't really involved in a lot of that early phase of the process. But I guess the general of what ADs do is different for every director and every show, and we're just another set of eyes, another sounding board to work with the director and do it whenever there needs to be do you watch them outside, I watch them outside, those things. It's different every rehearsal, every director, every show.
All three assistant directors are students as well, so this is a learning and educational learning opportunity.
Definitely, yeah. The other two assistant directors are both from UC Irvine, coming here with a partnership between the festival and the school.
You are at?
I'm at Carnegie Mellon, doing my BA in directing. So we're all studying directing. But yeah, so I don't think it would be nudging him towards or away from anything.
But I would just like to say that had she been involved in the process from the beginning, absolutely. Right? I think some directors come in and say, here's what we're going to do. Other directors come in and say, well, here's what I think the play is about. And then you look at the costume designer and say, what do you think? And then you look at the set designer and say, what do you think? And this all started way back in October, I think, when we started having these meetings. And I'm not a designer, so I don't want to make design choices. I want to know what the designers think, because they're going to think of something that I might never think of, because that's not how my brain works. So I like it to be collaborative, where anybody can volunteer anything that might get us to a better place, a funnier place, or whatever place, a more beautiful place, like the set, for example. Jason, our set designer, who's designed a lot here, what he said was, I don't want to do another musical set that goes out to the edge and then there are black curtains hanging there. Because I'm tired of looking at sets that that's sort of the typical way to do a set on a proscenium stage. All the scenery is here, and then at the edge there are black curtains. And so it just sort of disappears into the void. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? And he had this idea that the set would be a giant light box. Because this set, as you probably notice, is lit from behind as well as from the front to sort of give us that stained glass Chagall window look, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. So he pitched that as an idea, and then he started doing sketches, and then he started doing tests and sending them to me. And then, because it's a light box, we had to say to the lighting designer, can you make that work? Right? And Will said, I don't know. And then he did some experiments, because I've never worked on a set like this that's lit from behind and from the front and can turn this many colors. But it's about a Technicolor world, and we get full Technicolor out of it. And then the light designer, we put strip lights on the stairs. And what if we did, and what if, and we played the what if game. And there were a couple of things where we thought, either we don't think that'll work, or that's going to be cost prohibitive. If we do that, we won't be able to do these other four things. So it is a lot of discussion early on, and then we all sort of meet in the middle, and then we send them drawings, and they start doing it, But it's, for here specifically, it's from October to May is the process of getting to the first rehearsal.
Theater is a collaborative art, as you're describing so beautifully. A couple other collaborators I would want to acknowledge are that this production had Gloria Hubbard and had me.
She's sitting right there, Christine. Jeremy had to go back to LA with me. Jeremy, our music director, he and I have been colleagues for 37 years. We met doing summer stock in upstate New York when we were kids, and have been friends ever since, and have talked together and have worked together. And he is absolutely my music director of choice, because we share a brain. I don't even have to say it, and he already knows it, and he doesn't even have to say it, and I already know it. And to have that in a collaborator and Christine and I are very much the same way. This is only our third show together. And she was introduced to me by Gerald. And I've worked with him, she's worked with him, I've worked with her. But this is the first time the three of us have ever worked together, and it's just been an absolute treat. But
one of the things, if you got to be a fly on the wall at the technical notes, so after the preview happens, the technical team gets together, there are about 30 people in the audience just for those moments. So the collaboration, everything from the people who are building the sets, costume designer, the lighting designer, the sound designer, musical director, the prop designer. I mean, it is an enormous team effort, and every team I've worked with here is incredibly collaborative. Inviting of ideas, people who've worked together for 37 years. This is the first show we've worked together, and from the very beginning, this sense of openness and collaboration, I think, that infuses this place is theater in general, but it's here. It's pretty special.
yeah, it's just absolutely necessary, you know, and people who aren't willing to collaborate scare me.
Yeah. Do you have time for a few more questions?
Just really fast, since it was brought up. The second talk about home run, looking like stained glass windows, and like something that would fit in the 60s or 70s when it was first produced, you know, and brilliant. You got to use it as a light box and all the colors. And as far as Joseph being blonde, I am shocked that there's any controversy about this. Historical accuracy went out the window in the first 5 seconds. You're all getting shots from there, and it just seems like, to me, it's like the obvious way of always doing it. You know, Joseph should stand out visually from all the other brothers. The father says, he reminds me of my favorite. That's not a statement you hear every day. You know, my favorite wife, you know, should look different, should feel it. He's literally the blonde, blue-eyed, golden boy. That would, you know, inspire the same kind of jealousy that blondes tend to in our society, you know, and it would make him all more hated because it's not like that, you know.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. It really reminded me, actually, there was a production on 50 years ago on CBS TV, Marsha Efron's Sunday School Stories for Kids, and they did it the same way. He has this blonde wig. Oh, really? They despise him because, yeah, he gets so much attention. I thought it was a perfect choice.
Thank you.
And then, we're going to talk about 2 more, maybe 3. Do we have time for that?
I'm curious about the role of the dramaturgs, especially, I have guesses as to what a dramaturg does in a Shakespeare play, but I don't know what you would do in Joseph.
Well, as Isabel described in the beginning, the dramaturg's role is textual and historical. So I'm a textual expert, a historical background. It is pretty, it's a little bit in the Shakespeare play. But from the very beginning, the first conversation that Brad and I had on the phone, you know, we both talked about our experiences with Joseph, and I sort of said, you know, I'm on Shakespeare, I think this should be interesting. This should be a lot of fun. And one of the things Brad said is, we want to take this seriously, dramaturgically. And even though that is like sort of leaning into the silliness, so looking at things like what is the actual biblical history? What does Genesis say? Helping the actors be informed, like what is the history? What are the characters? What is the significance of Joseph for a Utah audience? Why does that matter? So those kind of cultural and textual things surrounding, and then little questions here and there. How might this be pronounced? Or what's, you know, who was Reuben? What was his story again? So
how much was 5 gold pieces worth in
Yeah.
1950 BC?
yeah, and
Just to know how much to pay for it.
yeah, and what might that look like? You know, what was the currency or what was the money in this time period? So I worked on the Book of Will and Twelfth Night and Joseph, which are all very different. Book of Will intense dramaturgically. Shakespeare's had a lot to do. This one, coming into it, I thought, what exactly am I going to do as a dramaturg? But, you know, basically the same thing you do on any show. I had all the comedies, and Isabel is on Henry and Hamlet and Macbeth, so she had all the tragedies at the time. I worked on so many comedies at once. I just came off of doing Henry IV Part 1 and 2 in another theater, so this was delightful.
And it's so great to be able to just turn to somebody in the room and say, can you find out the answer to that? rather than having to find time to do that myself. And I know I'm gonna get a more thorough answer from a dramaturg, because that's what they do. I could find out a little factoid about it that might be helpful. But and most of the time, the dramaturgs, you turn around and say, could you, oh, they're already on the computer looking for it. They've already Googled what the question was. And it's invaluable, especially when we work as fast as we work here.
Things do move really quickly. It's in the moment. You don't have a lot of the work happens before the show, so you're doing a lot of research. And dramaturgs tend to be, we love research, we love trivia, we love going down rabbit holes, we love getting into those obscure library databases, and, finding the things that need to be found. But things go really quickly. You don't have 2 days to look something up. You have 10 minutes because they want to work on it in the speed. So what would you add?
We often talk about the four contexts of dramaturgy, and that's kind of where at least my research starts. So if you look at when the play is written, so I'm going to use Shakespeare as an example because it's a little bit clearer than Joseph with this. So Macbeth, is written in 1606. When has the playwright set the play? So ancient Scotland. When has the director set the play? So ancient Scotland. And when is it being performed in 2019? So you take all four of those contexts and kind of have a deep understanding of them and then synthesize them in a way that's helpful for the director and for the audiences and for the actors so that everybody has as clear and as full a picture as they possibly can for the show.
I guess the last thing I would add to that, it's one thing to write a dissertation, so I have scholarly books and articles. That's not often super helpful for a director or for an actor. So finding that sweet spot, I also come out of an acting background, is it playable? What's going to be useful in production? I mean, it might be fun to know 57 facts, and I'll have them for you if you want, but what's going to be useful in production for the director, for the designer, or for the actors? And so finding that little sweet spot. So your dramaturgy lesson for the day.
We can take rehearsals.
Yes. Yeah. So we collaborate with the directors up front. We do a lot of the research and front load that, make a website or provide a packet for that information, and then we're there from the first read through all the way through the rehearsals. We're in the room with the team.
There was one more woman who I gestured to. Could you, I haven't defined from you, could you raise your hand? Someone who I haven't come to that I, okay. Oh, was it you, sir? Oh, was you? I noticed you.
I don't know if you need my notes per se. But there were like a couple of things that bothered me about the play. Just briefly, the movement of the stairs, I felt like slowed the production down just a little bit. And didn't really see the point of what the stairs were doing. It seemed like it took a lot of effort and a lot of actors moving around to do that. Okay. I'm not going to change it, but thank you. I said I'm not going to change it, but thank you.
That's all right. The Calypso number looked like, it's a preview, was the first number. It seemed like it started out without music or without, there was like a pause of about 15 seconds before it started. I wonder if that was just a rehearsal thing, or is that how we wrote it?
That's how we intended it.
Okay.
For him to jump up to defend his brother and then realize he just interrupted the king. And then have to find a way into defending his brother.
Okay.
And it turned into something.
It looked like the music didn't come in to support him, and so
Okay.
we were.
That's a great note.
I was confused.
Okay.
I thought it was this preview, so we forgot.
It was a mistake.
The cue didn't come in or something.
Cool.
And then the sing-along, I didn't figure out it was a sing-along until about halfway through. And go, oh, this is a sing-along. I think you could probably engage with the audience earlier to help them start to sing along.
Right.
Just need some class.
Right.
Well, have the narrator come out and wave arms to the audience and say,
Yeah,
sing along.
she does right at the beginning.
I didn't see
She
it.
points to the words and then she turns to the audience and so, but there's a lot going on up there when she does that. So I'm not surprised that you missed it because it's like a free range circus up there.
Right.
So, but that's great, thank you.
Okay. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just funny, I thought specifically in Utah, people would sing along whether we wanted them to or not. Right? Because there's such an affinity with this show among Utahns. I thought they might be singing during the show, you know?
the last thing I wanted to ask, if you you said you worked in the nineties in Broadway, with play, with Joseph?
But I saw it in the.
I thought you did the production.
I did the production, but not on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This
I was
is their original
wondering if it was
theater.
the Donny Osmond version.
No. This was before Donny Osmond ever did it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
And then I think we have one more up here. Is that about time?
So, we have not seen it yet. We just got it last night or something like that. And, I will often avoid coming to this talk before we've seen it. I'll wait till we've seen it come next time. And, we're here because we're here for that. And so, and I also was not particularly excited about seeing Joseph this year, but I've always enjoyed the musicals here, which I guess I've probably seen more of your productions than I realized. And so I'm like, good, well, that's a musical, I'm sure it'll be great, let's see it. And after coming to this talk, I am really excited to see it now in a way that I've never been excited to see a production of Joseph ever. So thank you, and I'm still glad that we were able to catch you and see you here this morning. And I'd like to know you said that there's a production in California that you worked on, the first one that you didn't want to work on, right? Which company was that with, if you don't mind?
It was the PCBA Theater Fest in Santa Maria and Salt Lake.
Oh, okay, no one heard that. Yeah. I've not heard of that, but that makes sense regionally.
Yeah, it's a regional theater that I've been associated with for 40 years.
So I think we are at time, and I want to thank the people who joined us today. We have some team members in the audience. Let's just thank everyone. Thank you for coming this morning, everyone. We will be back tomorrow to discuss Hamlet and Book of Will. Enjoy the shows today. We hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
So the seminar for Book of Will be held at 9 o'clock, and the seminar for Hamlet will be held at 10 o'clock. Thank you. It is confusing. It is. Yes, the newer theater.
I don't want to, no, I think she probably did. Oh, yeah. Oh, can I ask you real quick question? Are those going to be pictures? You know, okay. Yeah, look at something.
Go to the YouTube, put a link on the
Shakespeare website?
the way we call it. Okay. Are all the seminars, all of the seminars and everything to be oriented? Okay. Okay, that's good. No, that's great. I just wanted to know if I needed my hat and sunglasses, and I don't. Okay, except for these ones. Okay, all right, thank you.